This is one of the most famous and recognizable cityscapes in the world. And New York's reputation as big and brash may be just as famous. There are 24,000 restaurants in New York City, but within these busy, siren-filled streets, there's an oasis, where time doesn't matter, where service is king, and where nothing is too much trouble.
It's a real, genuine desire to make the people that eat here, just to make their lives better.
Great food goes hand in hand with great service. Here at 11 Madison Park, that's the plan.
I got it. Good. Tomato.
It's like a recipe. The service and the food are two ingredients in a dining experience.
I believe if the art of service and the art of cooking, if they come together at the highest level, I think that is the best dining experience.
To run a truly world-class restaurant, they both need to be given the same amount of authority, the same amount of respect. That relationship is truly the most important part about our restaurant.
And that relationship has paid off. 11 Madison Park has 3 Michelin stars, 4 stars from the New York Times, and it's recently been voted the best restaurant in North America by Restaurant Magazine.
Different layers. He has a tomato mousse underneath, has croutons underneath, and the tomatoes, and then just the onions and the basil.
It's beautiful.
These days, chefs and front of house understand that it is really a collaboration, that the experience is one. You can't have one without the other.
The restaurant is the shared vision of co-owners front of house specialist Will Guidara and award-winning chef Daniel Hum.
It takes about, 100 pounds of tomatoes per day to have like 4 pounds of like the mixture.
Overlooking Madison Square Park, the restaurant occupies the classic New York City Art Deco landmark, the MetLife Building North.
But this room is just one of those rooms that there aren't very many of anymore. It actually screams New York with its Art Deco detailing, and it's a very special place, and at some point along the journey it was decided that it deserved to be one of the great dining rooms in the world.
This is 11 Madison Park in New York City. Co-owners Will Guidara and Daniel Hum joined forces in 2006 when the restaurant was a simpler brasserie style. They began the transition to high-end fine dining by buying out their former boss and taking over full control in 2011.
Our goal is just to create an environment where people can come and connect with one another over food and wine, and hopefully food and wine at a higher level than that they've experienced before.
Food is getting better and better in more and more places, so service is becoming more and more important to the guest experience because they can get good food anywhere. But great service is a different story.
To help Will achieve his goal of exemplary service, he has a 40-strong front-of-house army, ready to give guests the dining experience of their lives.
We look to surround ourselves with people that are very, very passionate about what they do. So forget about us compared to the restaurants we view as competitive. I want to just ask you to think about as compared to the restaurants you've worked at before.
As the kitchen preps the evening service, Will briefs his front-of-house team.
We take what we do really, really seriously, but we don't take ourselves nearly as seriously. And I think no matter what the scenario is, when you articulate who you are and what you stand for, you only live up to those words like 98% of the time. Let's make it 100%. And that's what I challenge you all to do. That's it. Have a good service. In the dining room, it takes a long time to learn the craft of service, but we can teach that to people. What's required is a very, very complete understanding of our collective reason for being. So you guys, buds, have you heard this word buds before as it pertains to our menu?
And some bud board.
Oh, the bud board.
The bud board?
Bud board.
For staff, that learning process never stops.
100%. Very
And in case anyone's in doubt, the restaurant has a 97-page training manual.
There's a lengthy training program that you need to go through. And it becomes second nature. Then you can focus on the thing that's more important than any of that, which is just connecting on a very personal level with the people you're intended to serve.
So here we have our traditional East Coast seafood boil. So you go to the beach, get some friends, some seafood, and have a party on the beach.
It's about total knowledge. When you got that total knowledge of your place, of your surrounding, of your product, then you feel confident. People are watching you work and they can see, look at this guy, look at him. This is an integral part of the experience. And the interaction that you have with the guest is a very key part of it. So knowledge is fundamental.
Will's highly trained staff serve 100 diners a night, paying $225 a head for a multi-course tasting menu. Each group of 7 tables has its own captain, sommelier, server, and assistant server. But there's one member of staff whose job is more unusual.
I'm the only Dreamweaver that I know of, but it's a really nice thing to have such a unique job.
Their job is to do ridiculous things that will make an experience especially exciting or memorable for any given individual we find in our dining room.
If they are visiting New York for the first time and it's snowing, that we'll bring you a Madison Park sled.
Could be running out and getting a hot dog from a hot dog stand because a table is complaining that they're on their way to the airport at the end of a week-long trip, and as much as they loved their vacation, they're realizing now they never got that New York hot dog.
Like what I'm doing now is painting a bottle that's gonna be really special to some diners tonight to celebrate their anniversary. So they'll have the drink with them and then they'll be able to take it back with them.
It's basically us just saying that we are here to find a way to make the people that join us happy. And we'll be as unreasonable as possible in our pursuit of that.
We're at 2 top.
Recently crowned North America's finest dining experience by Restaurant Magazine, 11 Madison Park takes its inspiration from a strong sense of place.
We talk about New York cuisine, and we talk about a cuisine being the intersection of history and agriculture. And so we look for inspiration in so many different places, whether it's the food that is actually growing here. We work with a ton of amazing farmers just right around us. The cuisine is an expression of Daniel's palate. He uses a lot of acidity. It's very fresh and light. But hopefully it tells the story of the agriculture of New York, and hopefully it gives you a sense of the history of New York.
Yeah, I think it's good. I grew up in Switzerland, and in Switzerland, each town and every little valley and every place has like their own baked goods, their own sausage. But what are the things that you can only get in New York? And they are. And you have to dig a little deeper, and you have to be a little bit more patient to find them. And but that's how I found, like, you know, black and white cookies or egg cream, things that are truly only here.
Will and Daniel also drew inspiration from a quite different icon of the Big Apple.
We had lofty ambitions for what we wanted to do. We wanted to be the 4-star restaurant for the new generation. We believed that New York deserved a restaurant at this caliber that was designed for people of our generation, that wasn't stuffy or pompous or overwhelming. But we needed a way to communicate to our team what that looked like.
10 years ago when we got a review by the New York Observer. And we got a really good review, but one of the lines said, "Oh, I wish this place would have a little bit more Miles Davis." And we're like, wow, that's cool, but what does that mean?
And so a few months later, we started going deep into the world of Miles Davis, and we came up with the 11 words we found most commonly used to describe him.
And some of the words were, cool, endless reinvention, forward moving, collaborative. And I think a few of those words we really grabbed onto.
And those words eventually became our mission statement. But there's one that's become a very, very big part of who we are, and that's endless reinvention.
One part of that reinvention is the way the fruits of the kitchen are brought out to the dining room.
This is the pig's bladder, and we've used it as a cooking vessel for asparagus, coming from a really...
We love tableside service. I think when you look back at like the old grand restaurants of New York, there's a sense of theatricality in them. And that's something that we connect with.
The whole thing is theatre, and I am a big fan of it. I'm pleased that a lot more of the sort of trolley service round tables is coming back. It seems to me a lot of fun.
Guéridons, the French term for those little carts on wheels you push through the dining room, effectively giving us the ability to take something that would normally happen behind the scenes and bringing it right to you at the table. It's like sitting in the front row at the theater. And we do them for all sorts of things. We'll carve ducks, we'll do coffees and teas and cocktails, we'll open wines tableside, a bunch of different ways, one of which is we use these things called port tongs, which also get fire into the dining room, which very rarely falls short. It's just something that's fun, to bring it out, to make it a show. People come here to give themselves the grace to forget things. So whether they leave just being really struck by how delicious the food was, or the wine, or a cocktail that they had, or a particularly special connection that they had with the people serving them, we want them to just leave having had a really, really good time. We want them to laugh. We want them to have fun. We want them to think a little bit, hopefully learn something. We want them to feel that we were a worthwhile use of their time.